Welcome back everybody to Forza Horizon 5, and today we're taking a look at the 1976 Volkswagen SP-2. Now this was produced between 1972 and 1976 with 10,205 being made by the Brazilian arm of Volkswagen, so that means that this wasn't really available in Europe. It was exported to other countries, 150 or so were exported to Nigeria for instance, but generally it was made just for the Brazilian market. And yeah, it's based on the chassis of the Brazilian VW Type 3 variant. And yeah, I just love the design of this car. It's stuck to the usual coupe principles of long bonnet and short rear end, but because it's a rear-engined rear-wheel drive car, that means you get a huge amount of boot space up front. In fact, you get 140 litres, in fact, even with the spare tyre in there. So yeah, that is a huge amount of space to use at your pleasure. But at the end of the day, it still looks absolutely gorgeous despite being quite a practical car. I love the front lights. They've kind of got like a muscle car quality to them at the front there. I love the side profile. I like the red little decals that are going down the side of it. Then you obviously got the air vents for the engine at the back, because it is an air-cooled engine at the end of the day. And then you've got a rear hatch as well, with another 205 litres of rear boot space. Plus you've also got some space behind the driver and the passenger, with straps available to hold any luggage down should you wish to put it behind there, so it doesn't fly forward and hit you when driving. And yeah, it's got a nice interior as well, nice sporty interior, as you can see. It's all very nicely done. You've got all of your usual dials there. You've got your gasoline, you've got your amp meters, you've got your oil temperature, and then you've also got your speedometer and your tachometer as well. So yeah, all very good in that regard. It's also got disc brakes up front, a 4-speed manual gearbox, and like I said, it is rear-engine and rear-wheel drive because it is based on the chassis of Volkswagens that had that layout at the time. And so yeah, with the engine being at the back, you've got plenty of grip off the line, and it's hidden under the carpet as well, so it doesn't intrude into the boot space whatsoever. So yeah, it is a 1.7 litre flat 4 engine producing 75 horsepower and 96 pounds-feet of torque, which is fairly decent, certainly more powerful than the outgoing Carman gear, of which there was a TC version made specifically for Brazil, but even that had less power than this. Even though it had more than the original Carman gear from Europe. There was a more basic SP-1 version of this car as well, which had 21 less horsepower and way less in the way of amenities on the inside as well. So yeah, but it was also consequently a cheaper car as well. But I think this is probably the best all-rounder because you got plenty of power, but you still got the excellent looks and the really rather superb practicality on the go as well. So yeah, but nonetheless, let's get out there onto the open road and see what this car can do. Right, so here we are at the drag strip, so let's see what this car can do before we hit the speed camera, and then we'll get it around the track. So yeah, it's not the most powerful car in the world. As you can see, it's only revving up to about 5,500 RPM, so yeah, it's neither is it a sporty sounding engine as it either, but at least you've got the manual gearbox, which means that we can make the most of the power as and when we need it. And yeah, even though it's not as quick as say something like a AutoZam, which also had very limited amount of power, it's still quick enough, quite frankly, and certainly quicker than a lot of other Volkswagens from the same period. So yeah, nearly 80 miles an hour there, which is pretty good. And yeah, at the end of the day, even though this is a very good looking car like the Carman gear was, it ultimately is a good looking car without any of the disadvantages of the Carman gear, because it had way less power. It only had at maximum about 49 horsepower, and the Carman gear was very expensive to make, very also expensive to actually repair, because most of the bodywork was just one big sheet of metal, whereas this is constructed in a more conventional manner, so it's a lot cheaper to run and a lot cheaper to repair on top of all of that. And at the end of the day, because it has more power, it's faster than the Carman gear ever was. So yeah, even the TC version from Brazil, which is called the Touring Coupe, even that isn't as quick as this. Although granted, this does have a disadvantage, as we'll get to when we get to the stats. So yeah, we're in D class, so not particularly high, as you can see, at 252 PI, which is far from the highest by any means. But yeah, still, stat-wise, it's fairly reasonable, to be honest, especially in terms of speed and handling. Launch is reasonable, and so is the braking for a car of this age, but obviously the acceleration is on the way down low, which is not helped by the fact it's got a steel body construction, which makes it rather quite heavy for a car of this type at 1,962 pounds. If we compare it to other Volkswagens from the period, I think we've got, yeah, so you compare it to a Beetle, as you can see, that is 202 pounds less than the SP-2. Do we have anything else? No, we don't have any of the other ones to compare it against, but we have obviously seen the likes of the Type 3 in Forza games in the past, and yeah, if you also compare it to something like, say, the Porsche 914, which was made in collaboration with Volkswagen, that also, I think, weighed a bit more than this, but it also had just as much in the way of practicality, a convertible roof layout, and more power. So yeah, but nonetheless, let's hear what this car sounds like, and then we'll talk about it some more. So yeah, this definitely sounds a little bit sportier than your other Volkswagens from the period, particularly the Beetle and the Type 3, and certainly over the Volkswagen Bus as well. But yeah, it certainly doesn't sound as good as other sports cars from the period, and neither is it as quick in terms of acceleration. 0 to 16, 16 seconds dead. 0 to 100 in 77.482 seconds, that's more than a minute. And not really much point because it's only got a top speed of 102. Granted, again though, that is quicker than other Volkswagens from the time. The Type 3, for instance, I think up to about 98, 99 miles an hour, so it's definitely quicker, but it's not really the speed or the acceleration that makes this as good as it is. It's a combination of the looks and the fact that it's really rather quite truckable round the corners, because yeah, with that rear engine layout, it's got plenty of rear grip, so you can really just throw it into the corners and it will just hang in there for the most part. So yeah, which is despite the fact that this apparently doesn't have as good a suspension at the back as the European Type 3. It lacks the independent rear suspension that that version had, which is a little bit of a shame because it would be even better, quite frankly, if it had that, but it doesn't, so yeah, that's a bit of a shame. But yeah, this does the kind of things that you want from a sports coupe, to be honest. You're not really interested in anything other than the looks when it comes to such a car. But this has, you know, good handling. It's got plenty of practicality for a car of this type, and at the end of the day, it's still a you know, a solid looking vehicle overall as well, with very minimal aspects to it that I don't like. I'm not a massive fan of the reversing light. It looks like an afterthought, quite frankly, and that silver bumper at the back there just doesn't look like it fits with the rest of the car in terms of the general aesthetic. So yeah, but that's generally all I have in terms of negatives to say about the way it looks, because on the whole I do love it, the way it looks overall, to be honest. I love the curvature of the rear end, especially with the way that the lights curve slightly around the back as well, and then you've got those rear air vents on the back and the way it looks at the front with the headlights. It's just a fantastic looking vehicle, and yeah, one that I'd never heard of before. No surprise though, given that, like I said, it was mainly sold in Brazil, and I obviously do not live in Brazil. But yeah, still a fantastic car, and another showcase for why games like this are so great, because they just show you off cars that you've never heard of before, and yeah, it makes you learn about something that you never knew about. So yeah, fantastic vehicle overall, to be honest. I really like it, and I can't wait to see what else I can do with it in terms of this game. But nonetheless, you can get this car for 20 points in the festival playlist. It is well worth getting, and yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.